Hello, listeners. This is Steven with our first podcast and video cast for a product of society.org. Glad to have all my listeners here. Oh, yeah, awesome. Well, today we're talking about how to choose sustainable clothing. One of our latest blog posts we've gone into. Very interesting because, we really want to help people as a life coach. We want to help people in all aspects of their life. And it really means a lot to give back as well and to make sure the decisions we make that it can impact others, humans, people, but also what about the environment? What about impacting that in a good way? Well, how can our decisions in our clothing impact or have anything to do with the world around us, with nature? Well, surprisingly, a lot. While doing some research for this article, we did realize that there's this quote going around all over the place, saying how the fashion industry is the number 2 polluter in the entire world, and actually, it's not true. It's not number 2. Apparently, nobody knows where that actually came from, but we didn't want to further that agenda of whoever made it. But maybe it's never good to tell a lie for any reason. Absolutely. But how could somebody even say something like this? I mean, how can our clothes impact the environment at all? Especially to the point of somebody saying that it's number 2 in the whole world when you have so many other bad things that obviously pollute. Well, if you're going to think about the process of making clothes, we got to have the farmland for the cotton and for whatever else needs to grow for these things, and then you have to have the fabrics, manufacturing places to make the clothes, then the fabric, and then you make all these processes. We've heard a lot about slave labor as well. Of course, not a good thing that we want to support either. But then there's also the fads and the trends, and what are those teaching, especially the young ones these days? They wear something once or twice and they throw it away. It's crazy. They throw these things away. Or maybe, if they're good, they have a yard sale, that's definitely a good thing. But how long can you even wear clothes? A lot of these new clothes, they wear out so quickly. It's almost a one-time use thing, which is ridiculous. Certainly not a good thing when you think of all the work that had to go into making it, the farmland for these things, the forests that had to be cut down, and then what about the dyes that go into it? That goes into the preservatives or whatever they put into to conserve the clothes, the materials, the fabric, and that all goes into the rivers, and we know that's not a good thing either. So there's a sustainable clothing, a new movement, which we think is great. Sustainable clothing is awesome. Now, how sustainable is it? There's a New York Times article where we had really found okay, so it's not the number 2 polluter, but sustainable clothing, then it's kind of like a catchphrase thing. Everything is organic these days. Everything is natural, and these things. But if somebody really has in mind to have sustainable clothing, it's a good thing. What would they be focusing on? Because of course it's not the perpetual machine forever and ever. But when they're making the dyes is a big thing. The dyes, and then what kind of fabric is being used. Then they think about the planet and how it can impact it. Materials like cotton or hemp obviously would be a very good thing in supporting local farmers. And also these tend to last so much longer than these super tissue thin other man-made fabrics that they just don't last long. And so we have the reducing the pollutants then, and having natural fibers. There are lots of options now. It's really, really exciting. And then the dyes that go into it too. You might not have these exciting blues. You might not have exciting blues, but you can have very nice clothing, down to earth, you can think, but still very, very nice. Also, when we have clothing that's sustainable, we think about, how long it lasts before it just goes into pieces or it loses its color, it looks washed out and bad. But these sustainable clothing, you think about that, well, we don't want it just to last for a season, but more like a generation or more. And then there's fair trade. What is fair trade? I've seen it on coffees before. They also have it in clothes, which is nice. And I'm gonna just quote the post that we had here. It says fashion industries have managed to bring clothing prices down, but at whose expense? Many workers are required to work in difficult conditions and have little workers' rights. For example, many work long hours and receive a small wage with no sick pay. Those who make sustainable clothing guaranteed fair trade. This means that the workers, imagine this, workers from beginning to end, receive a fair wage and are able to work in humane conditions. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? Like to think that your clothes were made with hands of somebody that could go home to their family and cook a nice meal for them. It's nice to be able to do that. And there's many places on Etsy. You'll find different places that different smaller companies that have done the work for us to source these producers of sustainable clothes. Ones who focus on quality, not just quantity or not only price. They can be expensive though, absolutely. But like if you have to buy a $10-20 shirt every season instead of buying one super nice shirt for 40-50 bucks, but that can last you years and still look good, still look like brand new after many years, that's definitely a good investment. And knowing the process behind these clothes as well. So something to think about, how our clothes even can make us feel good, because we're thinking about the impact that it has on others. Chocolate sounds good though. The next podcast is about chocolate. Stay tuned for that one.